Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Today we're working on this John Deere JS36, and this just happens to be the third video that I made 4 years ago on this exact same push mower. It may or may not start up, and when it does, it runs for about a second or two. So I'm going to go ahead and do my routine check on it, check the oil, check the air filter, check the spark plug, all the basic maintenance stuff. So go ahead and check the oil and see what that looks like. And that's kind of dark, like it hasn't been changed in a few years. And maybe a tad low. 1/16. Take that off and inspect our air filter. That's not terrible, but I can shake that off. Get some of that debris out. Break that Champion JL19LM spark plug out. Take a look at that. So real quick, I might have another one of these on standby, but I'm going to sand this off, throw it back in, try and start it up. Here's a quick look at what came out of the air filter. And the primary is just dirty, so I'm going to blow that off. Box cover. Yeah, so we'll go ahead and clean that out, see if that makes a difference too, before I fire it up. Alright, so what I'll do is I'll take that air filter back off real quick and shoot a little starting fluid in there. And if it starts and runs, then we know we got a carburetor problem. So, it might be just a little bit of a clogged up carburetor. It ran, there you guys are. It ran a little bit longer than they usually do if there's obstructions in the carburetor, but that doesn't mean that it's just a little bit. And you saw that debris that came out of the air filter, so some of that might have got in there, and it had just enough vacuum to keep going, but just enough debris to prevent it from going fully. So hopefully it's just the carburetor. If it's not, we'll have to dig a little deeper. So we're going to go ahead and take the rest of the air filter cover off, the back part of it, and then we will get down to the carburetor itself. And I might actually take the top of the lawnmower apart also, just so it's easier to get the stuff. Set that to the side. Actually, you know what? I'm just going to leave that top cover on. I'm just going to take that piece off. I'm going to switch my Phillips head back to my 5/16, and we got 3 screws to take out, 2 that hold this to the carburetor or go directly into the carburetor, and then another one up top. And we can pull this piece off here. And there's a vent, this piece here on the cover goes into the vent tube on the back. So we'll set this to the side. I'm just going to wipe this down a little bit because it's kind of dirty. Keep that from getting back into the carburetor itself. And then on top here there's a 1/4 inch screw that we're going to take out. And just if we get in real close, you can see how this lines up. So when we put it back together, the spring's attached here. And there's a little notch that sits in here that adjusts the butterfly inside. So we want to make sure that that's all lined up. Once we lift this off, there's another linkage here that runs to the inside to the governor. And then we'll disconnect it down here. From there, the carburetor will be able to drop down. After we take 2 bolts off on either side, there's one here and one on the other side. So from here, if you have fuel in the gas tank, you'll have to pinch the line or have a container ready to go like I do, so that when you take the carburetor off, it's going to have, because of the gravity, it's going to have fuel constantly coming down. Okay, Just set that to the side like that. This next part will be difficult to do with one hand, but all I'm going to do is remove 3/8 bolt on this side, and there's one on the other side. And the reason I'm going to do it with one hand is because I'm going to have to get the container and get that ready, because once I pull this off, the fuel is probably going to dump out the carburetor either side. Good thing no fuel is coming out, so I'm going to take some needle nose pliers and carefully pull back on this spring and then undo it. And notice the little crack here where that goes through and where it's going to sit back on. Now I can take the carburetor and pull it back and just kind of finagle a little bit to dip it down to get it out of this hole right here, so this metal piece comes out, and then I'll be able to have full access to the carburetor. A little bit of wiggle and some manipulating, and I was able to get that piece out. Now I'm going to flip it over, and the gas is going to just start coming out now because of gravity and the way it's set up. But that's okay. I'm not going to reuse the fuel anyway. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take this nut off right here. We'll be able to take the float ball off and start inspecting what's going on the inside. And that is a 1/2 inch nut. Alright, so you can see there's a little bit of debris inside, and that may have been what was fouling it up. So we'll clean that float bowl out. We'll take the float and the needle out and then inspect this. And it looks pretty clear, so not too many obstructions in there, but I will clean that with some carb spray and run a little small wire brush through there. But that looks fairly clean. But like I said, if this was sitting in there clogging up the jet, that could have been a problem. So take it apart. Like I said, take the float and the needle out, spray it with carb cleaner, put it back together. I went ahead and pulled the needle and the float out, and underneath the needle is where the fuel inlet is, where the fuel comes through and then comes up. And then the main jet is in the inside here, which you can see that little brass piece there, and then the middle was cleaned out. I sprayed carb cleaner down through there and looked down in through here. I could see it was coming out just fine, so there's no obstructions in there. The fuel was coming out just fine, so I know there's no obstructions in the line. So what I'll do now, I did clean this piece off. So I'm going to put the pin back in and then put the float bowl cover back on and then tighten it back down, reassemble everything, and it should be good to go. I'm fairly certain, we'll say 95% sure, that that little piece that was in the float bowl was getting stuck somewhere here and causing the fuel not to flow properly. So we'll see what happens. Here's where I'm at. I reattached the spring, reattached the carburetor with the 3/8 bolts, and attached the governor linkage to the top of the carburetor. Remember, this one here has got that 1/4 inch bolt on it, so we're going to line it up right here, and we will make sure that that little plastic pin goes down in between this little crevice here, and then tighten down the 1/4 inch bolt. So you guys didn't miss much. All I did was put the screw back on this one piece and tighten that down, and put the 5/16 bolts, there's 3 of them in, and the air filter. Now if you guys want this a new air filter and that pre-screen filter, I'm going to put a link in my description. I used it before on this Briggs & Stratton engine, and that's a new one. It's like $6-7 if you wanted to put a brand new air filter in there, which I would recommend. But this one's clean, and I blew it out, so it's going to be alright. So we're just going to tighten this back down and then start it up and see what happens. As you can see, it was just that little obstruction there that kept it from running. So that's the importance of keeping your air filter clean and making sure that nothing gets sucked into the carburetor, or else it won't start. So as always, hope you guys got something useful out of this video. Thanks for watching. See you next time from the Neighborhood Go-To Guy.